One of the things I worry about is a severe sample selection bias in almost all academic research, particularly in business. And when I sort of raise this concern, it's interesting because I think people just look straight past it and they don't care, or they'd say like, um, you know, what can we do about it? The sort of basic things, they just kind of shrug and look at you. And, what is this thing that I'm talking about? And I've had this concern for forever, is that there's just one data set that we all have access to. It's basically the large corporations. And that's all of the data sets that we have access to are generally large corporations that are frankly not representative of most people in the world, and most people in America, most people in Canada. They're just not working for these large corporations, and that is what we often generalize from, is what's going on in these large corporations. And I could tell you that despite the fact that they seem, at face value, they may be similar. They're very different from what day to day is. And the knowledge that we actually gather is the, the basic stories that we get and we talk about are often far detached from actually what's going on and the reality of what's actually going on the ground of individuals and people. And you pick the field unless you're very conscious about this and you intentionally go in these areas where other people don't go. Almost everybody doesn't care, right? So the vast majority of the population, 95% of researchers look at this and they shrug their shoulders and they say, well, this is the best we actually have. Um, and, as a consequence, we have this bias that exists where um, we're drawing conclusions about things that are probably not relevant to day-to-day work, and we're sort of saying that this matters, right? Like that this day-to-day actually matters, or we look at things that are sensational and we say that that is what is representative of real life, and for the most part it's not, right? The people that study, there's I mean I there's only like basically a handful of individuals, I would say, that study the day to day, the real life nature of what's going on, and their stuff is very interesting, um, but for the most part it takes longer, it's harder. um, there's a lot that goes on to it and people discount it. um, I want to sort of just have people well aware that this is a severe challenge that we actually have. It's just not representative of it's not representative of my reality when I look at these things. It's not representative. The odd time it is where I do read it and I'm like, okay, that kind of represents, that kind of makes sense to what I am contending with or what I'm thinking about. Um, but it's pretty amazing how detached that we actually are. And the reason that is the case is that we are reading papers based on what other people have done from ideas that are probably 20, 30 years old at least by the time they get into, to circulation where people are paying attention to it. Um, and then we are um, trying to trying to create sort of knowledge based on this old stuff. in an old reality, and then we simply have to, this is the stuff that's getting published often, and it's just detached from reality. And if you were to look at the day to day or what people are actually doing, it would be discounted because it's not fitting in with what we actually know. And it's just like real struggle, I think, um, where we're just very much detached from the day to day. We're very much, or we're not sort of representing what a lot of people go through. And of course, I worry about that. I think about that all the time. It's like, what are we doing here? And I mean, it's hard to communicate that. And the reason is that there is the incentives in the tenure system um, make people want to run, 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 run right from the beginning. And instead of stopping and thinking and saying, let's do real good stuff, they just want to run, 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 run. And go down the path of what seems like the least resistance. Um, and this is kind of the reality that we live in terms of what is going on, right? Like I rarely see studies in business about homeless people, right? Like I don't think I've seen one. And yet that is a big part of reality. I never, because, and the reason why it would be discounted is because, well, they weren't successful. Um, I don't think that, they're very much different human beings than the CEO of Apple, for example. I don't think that there's that much difference between them, but I think like a lot of people, a lot of researchers think that they are, right? And they think that they're in different categories or not representative of each other. Um, and I frankly just have a hard time comprehending that they are, right? So what is that? What is going on? And here's the challenging thing is if you were to do the business of people that are, homeless, for example, would not get published in a business journal. And because, or it'd be very hard to, because people would say that it's not representative of what businesses are supposed to do. And yet that is probably more what real life actually is um, than many of the businesses that you would look at, right? We do have an ever growing population of, particularly in America, of people that are homeless. And we're not studying these things. We're not going in these areas where, there's real things, real day to day that's actually going on. Um, and, I think about that a lot of what are we actually saying here? And this is the challenge that it is as being a researcher. You may want to study those things, but the system doesn't want to study those things. It does not want to represent, and it's not an individual, and this is the thing that people, it's hard to sort of comprehend. The science system is not an individual per se, although it's deeply an individual, but it's the collective of how people are coming to terms with things. Um, and I encourage you to, if you're listening to this, if you're in kind of a research career, um, think about that. Think about what it means to study the day to day of things. We discount the day to day so much because it's not, the sort of sensational thing, but it's more representative of what we actually see. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.